On a peaceful early summer morning, sunlight streams into the quiet residential streets of Lexington. The lilacs I planted in my garden are blooming with their gentle purple flowers. As I turn over the soil, looking for a spot to plant new herb seedlings, the scent of morning dew-dampened earth tickles my nose. Gardening has become my daily routine since I lost my husband George 5 years ago. When I was teaching English at the high school, I never had time to spend such peaceful moments in the garden. But now, these quiet hours spent among the flowers and vegetables heal my soul. Grandma. I turn around to see my grandson Lucas, who always comes to visit on weekends, running down the garden path. Behind him, my daughter Ashley calls out, "Lucas, don't run." "Good morning, Lucas." Ashley. I take off my dirt-covered gloves to greet them. Lucas just turned 6. Like Ashley, he's growing up to be a sensitive and gentle child. "Grandma, are you planting new flowers?" "Yes, sage and thyme. We can use them when we bake bread." Ashley lives in a luxury apartment in Boston. As a freelance graphic designer, she handles projects for major corporations, brilliantly balancing work and motherhood. I'm so proud of my daughter. "Mom, can I help too?" "Wash your hands first. And take off your jacket." Ashley's meticulous nature hasn't changed since becoming a mother. Her husband David works at an investment bank in the Prudential Tower. He's well regarded in social circles and takes good care of his parents. On the surface, they seem to be living an ideal life. We spent the whole morning enjoying gardening together. Lucas promised to come water the seedlings he planted for the first time every week. Over lunch, while enjoying homemade herb tea and scones, Ashley enthusiastically shares stories about her work. "If next week's presentation goes well, I might get an even bigger project." Seeing my daughter's eyes sparkle warms my heart. After they left in the afternoon, I headed to the nearby community center for local volunteer work. Since retiring from teaching, this activity has become my new purpose in life. As the sun begins to set, I return to the garden to look at the seedlings we planted today. Looking up at the twilight sky, I pray these peaceful days will continue forever. That morning, I was watering the seedlings Lucas and I had planted over the weekend. The peaceful time spent with my grandson last weekend was still vivid in my heart. It seems like just yesterday that Ashley was excitedly talking about her new project. "I might be getting a big project soon, Mom." "That's wonderful. But don't push yourself too hard." "I'll be fine. I'll bring Lucas again next weekend." We had just had that conversation. Tuesday morning, I received the usual message from my daughter. "Got Lucas to school just fine." The attached photo showed my grandson beaming in front of his school. It was our daily routine. Ashley seemed busy from early morning. "I have an important client meeting downtown today." She sent a message saying she was rushing to prepare. She sounded positive about the new project. It went really well. The message that arrived at 11 a.m. showed her usual meticulousness. The client meeting appeared successful. My daughter's reputation as a designer had been growing year by year, with increasing requests from major corporations. 2 p.m. Heading to another meeting. That was the last contact I had with my daughter. I noticed something was wrong in the evening. The usual message saying, "Going to pick up Lucas," never came. Feeling something was off, I tried calling several times, but only got voicemail. Worried, I contacted David. Eleanor, I can't reach Ashley's cell phone either. The work meeting might be running long. I'll go pick up Lucas. David's voice maintained its usual calmness. Despite surely being busy with his investment banking work, he didn't seem particularly concerned. There was still no contact that night. The next morning, David called. Ashley hasn't come home yet. But don't worry. You know how she gets when she's absorbed in work. However, 2 days passed, then 3, and Ashley didn't return. While watering the seedlings we had planted over the weekend, I couldn't suppress my growing anxiety. Unable to keep the promise with Lucas. His small gardening gloves remained where they had been left in the garden. David finally filed a missing persons report 3 days after her disappearance. It might be too early. But just in case. There was something dismissive in his tone. The police checked the surveillance camera footage. They only saw Ashley leaving the office building around 2 p.m. She was walking with her usual gait, carrying her laptop and bag. Nothing seemed suspicious. Checking her belongings, they found she had left with her laptop, smartphone, and wallet. Her cell phone remained out of service. No activity on her bank accounts. It was as if she had vanished from this world. The attitude of David's parents, especially Grace, was concerning. She must have been stressed from work. David's mother spoke as if it was someone else's problem. That warm expression she had shown at weekend brunch was nowhere to be seen. Then a month later, we received the worst news. Ashley's belongings were found on the Boston waterfront. Her bag and wallet. The contents were intact. David began making funeral arrangements that very day. Mom, there's no point in waiting any longer. His voice carried more urgency than sadness. After 2 weeks of searching, the police hadn't found her body, but they issued a death certificate based on circumstantial evidence. Now, I'm sitting on a hard pew at St. Margaret's Church. The historic church, with over 100 years of history, is filled with about 50 attendees. On this cloudy morning, light filtering through the stained glass creates a melancholy atmosphere. At the front of the altar sits a coffin adorned with white calla lilies. I still can't believe my daughter is in there. While quietly praying, I try to accept this surreal situation. The scene from our last weekend in the garden kept flashing before my eyes. In the face of this sudden tragedy, we are at a loss for words. The pastor's voice breaks the silence. That's when it happened. Mom is alive. I know it. A sudden cry startled the church. Lucas had stood up from the front row. There was something certain in my grandson's voice. Lucas, sit down. David's voice carried an unusual sternness. I saw his expression tighten for just a moment. Caitlin also tried to restrain her brother, placing a hand on his shoulder. Murmurs spread among the attendees. Something about my grandson's cry struck me. Children's intuition is sometimes sharper than adults. My years of experience as a teacher told me so. David grabbed Lucas's shoulder and forced him to sit down. The pastor cleared his throat, trying to continue the service. But something big had started stirring in my heart. The scene in the garden last weekend. Ashley's passion for her work. And above all, the suddenness of this funeral. From my years of teaching experience, I had seen many times how children's words often concealed truth. Lucas's cry seemed to contain more than just denial or wishful thinking. For the remainder of the service, my eyes alternated between Lucas and David, who remained tense. Something was wrong. Everything from Ashley's disappearance to the funeral seemed too rushed. David and Caitlin's behavior also felt unnatural. Standing before the coffin in the mortuary, I had made up my mind. As a teacher, and more importantly as a mother, I had to get to the bottom of this unease. My grandson's gloves left in the garden strengthened my resolve. Had Ashley really died? Or my intuition told me we were still missing some crucial truth. A week had passed since the funeral. The lilacs in the garden were beginning to scatter, and the early summer heat grew stronger day by day. Every morning, while watering the seedlings Lucas had planted, I kept thinking about his words that day. "Mom is alive." That confident voice wouldn't leave my heart. During my teaching years, I had seen many times how children's intuition could speak the truth. Children are particularly sensitive to subtle changes that adults might miss, especially when it comes to family matters. In my 35 years at the podium, I had encountered such situations countless times. David's behavior had clearly changed after Ashley's disappearance. The change became more pronounced when he started preparing for the funeral. Normally, it takes at least 6 months for a death certificate to be issued, but this funeral came just a month and a half later. It was far too hasty. His attitude showed more urgency than grief. Caitlin's behavior was also concerning. David's sister had started appearing frequently since Ashley's disappearance. I knew she lived on the lower floor of the same apartment building, but she had never visited this often before. In fact, she had previously seemed reluctant to participate in family gatherings. "Mother-in-law, I'll take care of Lucas." There was something unnaturally eager about her offer. It was as if she was trying to prevent contact between Lucas and me. Weekend visits were repeatedly postponed with various excuses. "Lucas has lessons, he's going to a friend's house," new plans kept being made. Grace's attitude was also suspicious. David's mother showed little interest in Ashley's disappearance. "I'm sure there's some reason," she would say, as if it didn't concern her. Though her relationship with Ashley had seemed good, her attitude was cold. I decided to take action. First, I tried contacting Ashley's work associates. It took a week to track down the client she supposedly had her last meeting with, checking her business card file one by one and making countless calls. A meeting with Mr. Morrison. That finished in the morning. I hadn't heard about any afternoon appointments. The words of Jennifer Williams, one of Ashley's main clients, deepened my suspicions. According to her, Ashley had secured a new project during the morning meeting and seemed very positive. "Actually, there's something that concerned me," Jennifer continued. "Ashley seemed to know something about bank fraud. She said she had found a major problem." My heart raced at these words. Next, I investigated David's reputation at the bank. One of my former students, Richard Collins, worked at the same bank. He had been a diligent student, good at mathematics. At our meeting in a coffee shop, Richard began speaking in hushed tones. What he revealed was even more shocking. Actually, there's a major problem in Mr. Morrison's department. An internal investigation has begun into suspected mismanagement of client assets, particularly regarding VIP client asset management. According to Richard, there were suspicions that David's department had been mismanaging client assets for the past several years. The number manipulation was so sophisticated that regular audits couldn't detect it. But there were rumors that someone was preparing to blow the whistle. The day after hearing this, I visited Ashley's home office. While David and Caitlin were out, I entered the room using a spare key borrowed from the building manager. Most of Ashley's personal belongings remained untouched. On her desk sat the computer she hadn't taken with her when she disappeared. When I turned it on, a password screen appeared. I tried several times. Not Lucas's birthday. Not her wedding anniversary. Then it occurred to me, my birthday. The screen unlocked. The desktop was neatly organized with folders. Work data, family photos, and then something caught my eye, a folder labeled banking_evidence. When I opened it, I found shocking contents. Evidence of fraudulent transactions in David's department. Documentation suggesting misuse of client assets, inflated profits through fictitious transactions, and suspected money laundering. Ashley had been meticulously gathering this evidence. Further investigation of the email folders revealed another crucial discovery. In the drafts folder was a message prepared for the bank's internal whistleblower hotline. It was dated the day before her disappearance. Ashley had been preparing to blow the whistle. The email had detailed evidence attached and was saved just before sending. While thoroughly searching the room, I found an old envelope tucked behind the document shelf. Inside were Grace's property tax payment documents. They showed she owned a vacation house in Cape Cod, on the outskirts of Boston. The location was in a remote coastal area. I had never heard about the existence of this vacation house. Further searching the desk drawers revealed a small notepad. It contained the address and access code for Grace's vacation house. On the edge was a hastily written note, "Mom, help me." The shape of the letters showed it had been written in a hurry. I carefully provided information to the police. First, I submitted evidence of David's fraudulent transactions at the bank. I included evidence that Ashley had been preparing to blow the whistle. I also reported David's suspicious behavior, particularly how he rushed the funeral. I prepared a document listing the timeline of events and noting all the unnatural points. Detective John Murphy was initially skeptical. However, as he checked each piece of evidence, his expression changed. This evidence is extremely important. Particularly, the evidence that she was preparing to blow the whistle suggests a new direction for our investigation. Under Detective Murphy's direction, a full investigation of the bank's transaction records began. The existence of Grace's vacation house also became a new target for investigation, with plans to check the location. Then came a decisive discovery. While rechecking surveillance camera footage, a vehicle captured on a camera from a different angle after Ashley's last appearance caught their attention. "Notice this SUV," said Detective Murphy. "It's a black Range Rover. At the wheel is Caitlin Morrison. And in the passenger seat." The footage clearly showed David. They had been lying in wait near where Ashley was last seen. That afternoon, I returned to Ashley's office. While thoroughly checking the desk drawers, I made another discovery. A USB drive hidden behind the backing. It contained additional evidence of the bank's fraud and photos showing the relationship between David and Caitlin. Before submitting the evidence to the police, I backed up all the data. My intuition told me this evidence would be crucial in uncovering the truth. At dusk, back in the garden, I gazed at the seedlings Lucas had planted. The small sprouts now showed definite growth. Mom is alive. My grandson's words echoed in my mind again. Ashley, where are you? You must still be alive. I can't help but believe that. There must be more I can do. I cannot allow David and the others to get away with their schemes. Looking up at the night sky, I had decided my next action. Grace's vacation house. All the answers must be there. I decided to head there tomorrow. There was no time to waste in saving Ashley. Believing in Lucas's words. As a mother, I will continue searching for my daughter until the end. In the car heading to Cape Cod, I was organizing all the discovered evidence in my head. The early morning highway was empty, and as we approached the coastal road, the scent of the tide began drifting into the car. I had informed Detective Murphy in advance of my intention to go to Grace's vacation house. We'll move too. But absolutely do not act alone. His warning voice still rang in my ears. The vacation house was in a remote coastal location. Buildings were sparse in the surroundings, a place where outsiders' eyes wouldn't be a concern. While waiting for the police forensics team to arrive, I observed the building from my car. Then, a black SUV arrived at the vacation house. It was Caitlin. Right on schedule, according to neighbors' testimony that she visited twice a week. She went inside carrying large shopping bags. 30 minutes later, the police arrived. Under Detective Murphy's command, the forced investigation began. The sound of knocking on the front door echoed across the quiet beach. Caitlin answered. When shown the warrant, her expression tensed. There's nothing here. Her voice carried a hint of panic. The house search began. Living room, kitchen, bedroom, they searched everywhere in teams. At first glance, it looked like a normal vacation house. However, they found an entrance to a basement under the kitchen floor. The existence of this basement isn't mentioned in the building application, said a forensics officer. The tension among the investigation team increased. The heavy iron door was opened, and flashlight beams illuminated the basement. What we found there was a small living space. A bed, a simple toilet, and Ashley was there. Mom. A weak voice. An emaciated body. But she was definitely alive. I rushed to embrace my daughter. Her body was trembling but warm. Events unfolded rapidly. David and Grace, who had rushed to the scene, were also arrested. The interrogations revealed the truth. Ashley had accidentally discovered her husband's fraud. David had mismanaged VIP client assets, resulting in huge losses. To cover these losses, he misappropriated new clients' assets. The debt snowballed. Furthermore, David and Caitlin's relationship came to light. Despite being siblings, they had a twisted romantic relationship. Ashley had discovered this too. For two reasons, she had become someone who needed to be eliminated. The plan was meticulous. David lured Ashley to the vacation house under the pretense of meeting about a new project. Since her morning meeting with the actual client had been successful, Ashley's guard was down. Grace's vacation house was chosen because it was out of sight. David's mother had silently approved everything, both her son's fraud and Ashley's confinement. If it's for David's sake. That single thought made her accept everything. Caitlin was in charge of creating alibis and surveillance. She regularly brought food to Ashley in the basement, completely cutting off any external contact. The original plan was to actually kill Ashley after the death certificate was issued. However, David's calculations went wrong. Lucas's intuition. My investigation. The evidence left on Ashley's computer. Everything came together, and the plan crumbled. In the interrogation room, David maintained his silence until the end. However, Caitlin began giving detailed testimony. I couldn't take it anymore, she said, tears flowing as she started to reveal everything. The full extent of the fraudulent transactions was revealed. Over the past 5 years, assets totaling more than $200 million had been mismanaged. To hide these losses, new clients' assets were repeatedly misappropriated. Grace's interrogation revealed even more shocking facts. The abnormal relationship between David and Caitlin had been going on for more than 10 years. She had known about it and maintained her silence. To protect my son. Grace repeated these words over and over. A week after Ashley's rescue, the indictment was announced. David faced multiple charges including kidnapping, fraud, and embezzlement. Caitlin was charged with conspiracy and kidnapping. Grace with aiding and abetting. Each would receive severe penalties according to their crimes. In her hospital bed, Ashley was slowly regaining her strength. I heard Lucas's voice, she said weakly. In the basement, I definitely heard it. When Lucas shouted in the church. Mom is alive. My grandson's words had conveyed the certain truth. A child's pure sensibility had captured a truth invisible to adult eyes. Holding Ashley's hand, I reflected on how my years of teaching experience had helped resolve the situation. Listening to children's words. Not missing subtle changes. And having the courage to pursue the truth. The sky visible from the hospital window had regained its fresh early summer blue. I was certain that from here, our new life would begin. Caitlin's testimony in the interrogation room continued late into the night. While trapped in her twisted relationship with David, she had been tormented by guilt over Ashley. Every day, while bringing food to the basement, I wondered if we were really going to kill her. Her confession revealed the depth of darkness in this case. The bank's internal investigation also intensified. David's methods had been sophisticated. He had operated VIP client assets through multiple dummy accounts. While making it appear to show high returns on the surface, he had actually been accumulating losses. The total amount far exceeded initial estimates. Grace's interrogation revealed her complex emotional state. As a mother who had lost her husband early and raised her children alone, her love had become distorted. If it's to protect David, that single thought had warped all her judgment. Even the basement renovation had been done on her instructions. As the truth came to light, the twisted human relationships behind the incident became clear. Contrary to the surface success, the reality was full of deception. David's prestigious reputation at the bank had ultimately been just a facade. Ashley's recovery progressed better than doctors had expected. "I want to see Lucas." Those were her first words. However, their reunion was handled carefully. Gradual visits were planned with guidance from a psychological counselor. Then came the day of mother and child's reunion. When Lucas rushed into the hospital room, Ashley burst into tears. "I could hear Mom's voice," Lucas said, clinging to his mother. Watching this scene, I felt anew the strength of family bonds. Truth will always come to light in the end. That was the lesson this incident taught us. The trial continued until the end of winter. While David maintained his silence until the end, Caitlin's testimony and the bank's investigation results proved decisive. The defendant, David Morrison, is hereby sentenced to 20 years in prison. When the judge's voice echoed through the courtroom, Ashley squeezed my hand tightly. There should have been things more important than money. At Ashley's quiet words, David's expression twisted for just a moment. Caitlin testified in detail about the full extent of the incident. "At first, I just wanted to protect my brother. But before I knew it, we had gone past the point of no return." She was sentenced to 7 years in prison. At Grace's trial, her distorted maternal love came to light. "After losing my husband, David was my only reason for living." After receiving a suspended sentence, she moved to Florida to live with her sister. Spring arrived, and flowers began blooming in my garden again. Ashley and Lucas decided to start their new life at my house. The seedlings Lucas had planted that day had grown into fine herbs. "Mom, look. What I planted has grown so big." "It really has. Thanks to Lucas, it's grown so beautifully." Ashley set up a new office in a room at home. Her former clients warmly welcomed her return. "I've learned firsthand the importance of living honestly." I nodded deeply at my daughter's words. Her passion for work had grown even stronger after the incident. Lucas goes to psychological counseling once a week. Gradually, he's becoming able to face the memories of those days. "Grandma, I really did hear Mom's voice. In that church." "Yes, I know. Your words saved Mom." According to the counselor, the strong bond with his mother is supporting Lucas's recovery. Peaceful days gradually returned to our daily life. In the mornings, the three of us work in the garden, and in the evenings, we help with Lucas's homework. On holidays, we enjoy picnics in the park. We had renewed appreciation for the preciousness of these ordinary moments. "Mom, do you ever think about David?" One day, Lucas asked Ashley. "Yes, I do. But that's in the past. Now, I want to think about the future, yours, mine, and Grandma's." Lucas nodded, satisfied with Ashley's answer. The following spring, the garden showed even more vitality than usual. The herbs planted last year had grown splendidly, and new flower beds were blooming with various colors. "Hey Mom, can we plant tomatoes here next?" "Of course. Let's ask Grandma where the best spot would be." Watching them both, I whispered in my heart. Like this garden, our new life would grow slowly but surely. We cannot erase the sad past. But that experience has made us stronger. And above all, it taught us the importance of family bonds. Well, it's tea time. Ashley and Lucas turn at my voice. Today, let's make herb tea with the mint Lucas grew. Basking in the spring sunshine, we gathered around the garden table. Having overcome those difficult days, here we are now. We found a new form of family and are spending peaceful days together. This is the form of happiness we've chosen. Certain of this, I cherish these moments with my precious family.